welcome. Yes, Honorable Van Zyl, Honorable Dijkbosch.
Morning, Chair. Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning, Chair.
Morning,
Chair.
morning, Saints. Thank
Morning,
you.
Chair. I can't share my face.
Mkhalipi, welcome. I think we should be ready to we should be able to start at this point. Let's may I request the members to observe a moment of silent prayer and meditation. Thank you. May I then welcome the Auditor-General, Ms. Maluleke, and the team. May I say how we appreciate this briefing, and we're looking forward to the latest briefings. We must say that since the last briefing, the committee, let me say the committees have been very busy at work. We found that it was a very exciting program and quite informative and educational. We've actually had very fruitful engagements. And welcome the Director General for COGTA, as well as the entire team management of COGTA who are here, and all those who have also been with us throughout the program as we moved around engaging different provinces. We do appreciate that support. At this point, may I invite Ms. Maluleke, the Auditor General, to introduce the team and give us a presentation that she has prepared for us. Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Maluleke. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Good morning to you, and a warm greeting to all of the members of the Portfolio Committee on COGTA. I'd like to greet the DG of COGTA who's in the meeting, as well as the officials that are present. A very warm greeting to the team AGSA members that are here in our offices in Pretoria. They are led by the newly appointed Deputy Auditor General, Ms. Bongi Ngoma, who assumed her duties as the Deputy Auditor General of the Republic of South Africa from the 1st of June 2026. Chair, I must take a moment to highlight that it is for the very first time in history, as we celebrate 115 years of the existence of the Audit Office, we also acknowledge and celebrate a milestone where the Audit Office is being led by two women, a female AG and a female Deputy AG. I want to also thank you,
I think you need an applause on that one. Sorry to disturb you. Honorable members, I think we need to put a huge applause for that. And if you want to show your faces, Auditor General, you really deserve an applause for that. Thank you.
Hooray, viva Mbogote, viva. We'd like to see the
Thank you.
deputy
That's
one as
very
well,
exciting.
Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm also joined on the podium by the Acting Head of Audit, Dr. Tanizi Gode. Honorable Chair and honorable members, thank you once again for creating an opportunity for us to share the audit outcomes for local government relating to the year 2025. I also want to start by highlighting that the individual audits were completed and the respective audit reports included in the annual reports that were tabled in the councils, in the provincial legislatures, and were the subject of oversight engagements at that level. I also want to acknowledge the activity and the attention paid by the committees of the National Assembly, who, as you said, Honorable Chair, have heeded our call for all structures within the accountability ecosystem to take a more active interest and play their role in conducting oversight, but also in supporting local government. We are already seeing the green shoots associated with this activity, as we will share on the outcomes in a moment. The provincial outcomes that we're sharing today have, the consolidated national outcomes have already been shared with the national executives, and they form the basis of the report that we're tabling today. The audits have been conducted on the basis of our constitutional mandate to serve as the supreme audit institution of the Republic of South Africa. We conduct independent audits on how public funds are being managed by those entrusted with the duty of managing public resources for the benefit of citizens. The Public Audit Act specifically provides that when we audit, we must look at financial statements, performance information, as well as compliance. And our audit reports must also include a statement of our view on the status of internal controls. And the audit reports must also include some indication of whether or not we've identified material irregularities and provide the nature of those irregularities, but also a status update on how they're being dealt with. A combination of this, and it is always our fervent ability ecosystem. And I'm pleased that indeed the provincial and national leadership in the administration, in the executive, but also in oversight, have indeed heeded our call to say that municipalities cannot be expected to do this work on their own. It's crucial that, yes, the leadership within municipalities do their part, but equally important that those that are outside of the, let's call it, boundaries of the institutions actually do their part as well. And we are, as I said, seeing some encouraging impact associated with the contribution made by provincial and national leadership. Let me get to the outcomes. The outcomes that we're sharing for this year demonstrate that we are starting to see some improvements, limited as they may be, but some encouraging improvements. Let me start with the light blue color on the right-hand part of the slide. Last year, when we tabled our report, we reported that there were 10 audits outstanding, in that the submissions were late and the audits had not been completed on time. This time around, you'll see a number 2, not 10, as we would have reported last year. What this is saying is that this year, for the very first time, we've had a very high level of timely submissions of financial statements for us to audit. We actually reached a milestone of 98% timely submissions of municipalities across the country. We are a long way from where we started. And if you look at the bar on the very bottom part of the slide, this 98% is in fact a historical mandate. We've got only 2 audits that were not subject to our report this time around. Nala in the Free State, which submitted late, but we've subsequently completed their audit and they received a qualified audit opinion. And then we've got Maludia Pofung. They submitted the individual financial statements and performance reports for the municipality and the entity. However, they have yet to submit the consolidated set of financial statements for us to complete the audit. This milestone, Chair, is credit to the active support and the active attention that has been paid by provincial leaders, national leaders, but also the leaders in the oversight mechanism. The advocacy, the active support has really led us to a point where municipalities are changing behavior and subjecting themselves to the scrutiny that is such an important pillar to democratic principles. If you look also at the fact that we had issued material irregularities for the non-submission of financial statements, because as Team AGSA, we took a view that non-submission of financial statements was, yes, compromising on key principles of transparency and accountability, but it was actually causing harm to the institution where those financials were not being submitted. So a combination of the material irregularities, the action by the leaders within municipalities, but importantly, the contribution at provincial and national government has led us to a point where we have this particular milestone. If you look at the next category, which is the red, the disclaimer of audit opinions. Honourable members will remember that we have been highlighting how undesirable it is for any institution to have a disclaimer of audit opinion, especially if it's a repeat disclaimer. We have moved since the beginning of this term of administration for local government from 29 disclaimers to now 8 disclaimers. Of the 8, 7 are repeat disclaimers. Only Kamiesberg in the Northern Cape regressed from qualified to disclaimer this time around. So now we know that we've got 7 disclaimers that are repeat disclaimers that are demonstrating an inability to move out of this governance failure, and so warrant specific attention. We can all now direct our efforts to shifting what's happening in these municipalities. Unfortunately, it's municipalities that are well known to all of you as the honorable members of the Portfolio Committee. Masilonyana in the Free State, been in disclaimer territory for 10 years. Nketwana local municipality, also in the Free State, 7 years repeat disclaimer. Muhagari, 3 years repeat disclaimer. In the Eastern Cape, we've got 2 of them, Magana and Sundays River Valley, which have been disclaimers for 7 years. And then you've got Ditjobotla in the Northwest at 9 years of repeat disclaimer. Kanaland, 4 years in repeat disclaimer. And as I said, Kamiesberg, which has regressed for the first time. The point I'm making is that for the very first time, we've actually got a very low number of municipalities in this category. In fact, we went back to our records and we couldn't find any year when we had this low number of disclaimers. So it tells us that something is shifting. It's a green shoot. It is a gain we must bank, and it's one we must build upon. I believe wholeheartedly, honorable members, that if we keep the attention on these disclaimers, these 7, and we keep advocating for no other municipality to regress into this territory of disclaimers, we can make sure that this legacy of disclaimers we can get rid of forever. By way of context, the 8 municipalities that are in this disclaimer category represent only 0.6% of the expenditure budget of local government. It's a long way from where we began, where we were looking at 5% of the expenditure budget sitting in the hands of disclaimed audit opinion municipalities. Effectively, what we've done together is we have been able to shine a spotlight of greater transparency and drive a better behavior around accountability that represents billions, but also represents the interests of citizens. The 29 disclaimer municipalities used to represent, or rather used to service households of about 980,000 of them. And now you're looking at just about 173,000 households that are in those repeat disclaimers, also meaning that it's a step change from where we began. If you look at the adverse audit opinions, which is the pink, that number looks like it's quite stuck at the 5. And then the qualified audit opinions also quite stuck at about 33% of the audit base. The qualified audit opinions include 8 out of the 10 municipalities that COGTA has identified as being most distressed. So it gives you a sense of the type of municipalities that are stuck in this category. And then we've got a high number of unqualified audit opinions with findings, the yellow category. This 117 represents 46% of municipalities, and we do shine a spotlight on them, so I'll come back to that particular category. And then the clean audits are now at 39 clean audits, representing 15% of municipalities, who together look after 24% of the expenditure budget of local government. Yes, we have fewer clean audits, but together, if you read the clean audit number and the one for unqualified, together they represent 61% of municipalities, meaning in simple terms that 61% of municipalities can publish credible financial statements. Again, that's a gain that we must make sure that we protect and build upon. We went back to our records as Team HSA, and we found that the last time we reached these levels of unqualified audit opinions on financial statements was about 10 years ago when we were at 62%. That's 62%. So we are making gains in the journey of improving accountability and transparency within local government. Still a long way to go. However, we are seeing some green shoots, and much of it is credit to the input of the leaders within provincial and national government spheres. I also want to highlight that if you look even on the last slide, the number of improvements, the 72 municipalities that would have improved over the course of this administration from 2021 has been somewhat compromised by the regressions that are 38. But on the net basis, we are seeing a net set of improvements. I'd like to just spend a bit of time talking about the provinces so that we're not just looking at the consolidated numbers. At the provincial level, let's start with the Eastern Cape. There's been some encouraging improvements in the Eastern Cape over the period of administration, and this is credit to the municipalities themselves, but also to the role played by the provincial government. Provincial Treasury, Provincial COGTA, and led by the Office of the Premier, have worked hard to provide technical assistance to a number of municipalities. You're seeing the clean audits increase. You're also seeing the disclaimers come down from 4 to the 2, and the 2 being the Sundays River Valley and Makana. We've pushed back on adverse audit opinions. So now what we've got to do within this province is focus on shifting the ones that are in the qualified space and even the ones that are in the unqualified space towards the green. The reason we say this is that even if you look at the 12 that are unqualified, many of them submitted financial statements that were not credible to begin with. And they relied on the audit process to move into the unqualified space. At least half of them relied on the audit process, even though they had even used consultants. The reason we point this out is to say that the basic disciplines that must underpin how the municipalities function, those are still quite weak. We've benefited from significant support from the province. However, if you look at both the number 12 and the number 17, it tells us that there's significant work to be done. Incidentally, the 2 metros in the province have got qualified audit opinions, and so they need a particular level of attention because they have significant budgets, significant obligations for service delivery, and they have been in this category for many years, plagued by institutional instabilities as well. I also want to highlight that within the Eastern Cape, what we're seeing is that the service delivery matters are not enjoying the attention that they should. And we see it when we look at the performance information, but we also see it when we look at their projects. When we visit their infrastructure projects, we're seeing that their ability to manage their infrastructure projects is still quite weak. I also want to highlight that within this province, as you would have seen when the Portfolio Committee visited the Eastern Cape, there is still significant effort to be made to ensuring that even the grants that they have in their hand for infrastructure projects are being used appropriately. And then the Free State. The Free State, together with the Northwest, still hold the record for not having any clean audits. Over the course of this administration, that situation has not changed. In the Free State, what we're seeing is, yes, the submissions have come right, as I've spoken about. Yes, the disclaimers are coming down, which is progress. We don't have any adverse audit opinions. However, in the Free State, you'll see a dominance of the purple, which is the qualified audit opinions. And even the unqualified, many of them reached that category after relying on the audit process, saying that the financial management practices are still very weak. I do want to credit the provincial leadership, especially the provincial treasury, working together with COGTA for the work that they did in supporting the journey on submissions, supporting the journey on pushing back on the disclaimers of audit opinion. Service delivery within the Free State remains really concerning. Financial health pressures are prevalent across municipalities in this particular province. In fact, you've got 90% of the municipalities in the Free State demonstrating significant financial health vulnerabilities. Infrastructure projects are not going well in that the capability to implement infrastructure projects continues to be weak. Infrastructure maintenance is still not being attended to, and it manifests in significant distribution losses on electricity as well as water. Mangaung, which sits in this particular province, is a particularly challenged metro, one that has been enjoying the attention of intervention even from the national level. And I'm aware that they've spent a great deal of time in oversight conversations with this particular committee, Honourable Chair, but also together with the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. I do believe that the interventions that are being made by the committees of Parliament will deliver much greater accountability as we go forward. It is important that we close what has been an undesirable accountability and oversight gap amongst municipalities, especially the metros, and in particular metros such as Mangaung. If we look at Gauteng, it's got 2 municipalities with clean audits, one being Midvaal, which has been a clean audit for many years, and also West Rand District being a clean audit this time around. 3 of the 8 metros of South Africa sit within Gauteng. And I'll talk a bit more about the Gauteng. But I will say that the 3 metros in Gauteng have actually regressed on audit outcomes over the course of this particular administration. Another notable regression is Mfuleni, which regressed to a qualified audit opinion over the course of this administration. We're seeing that in Gauteng, not only are audit outcomes going backwards, but we're seeing that financial health is deteriorating. We're seeing service delivery begin to collapse. We're seeing infrastructure degrading. We're also seeing that accountability is still not coming right. Consequence management remains very poor. Irregular expenditure continues to soar. Unauthorized and fruitless expenditure remain a problem. And so Gauteng is a concerning province in that the gains we would have expected of a province that has got access to resources, access to talent, that progress is still not evident. If we then look at KZN, over the term of this administration, we've seen some improvements, 1 more clean audit, no more disclaimers, and only 1 adverse audit opinion. The majority of the auditees within KZN reside in the yellow category, which is the unqualified with findings. Yes, it's important that they're able to present credible financial statements, but much of it came on the back of having relied on the audit process, meaning that the financial management practices that should underpin how the municipalities function, those are still not intact. Many of the institutions within local government in KZN still struggle with non-compliance, which unfortunately means that procurement processes are not being done in a way that's consistent with prescripts, but also it does lead to poor quality spending. We've also looked at infrastructure projects within the province with many findings that I'll talk about a bit later on. Limpopo, we've got 2 clean audits this time around, so some progress there. 2 district municipalities that have got clean audits, being Waterberg and then now Capricorn as well. Disclaimer audit opinions have been dealt with, which is an important move. We don't have any adverse audit opinions. The concentration of municipalities within this province resides in the yellow category. In this yellow category, you've got municipalities that unfortunately still rely heavily on the use of consultants for financial reporting. It's a matter we've raised for a number of years now. Unfortunately, we're still not seeing progress in this regard. And what it does is that it tells us that there is a delay in building the institutional capabilities that municipalities need to do the very basic functions that they're entrusted with. If we look at financial health, also starting to be of some concern. Mpumalanga, probably along with the Free State and the Northwest, is plagued with significant financial health challenges across their municipalities. And Mpumalanga has regressed in terms of the number of clean audits. However, some progress in that no more disclaimers, no more adverse, and a concentration within the yellow category. Within this province, we're seeing, as I said, financial health really weakening, significant levels of unfunded budgets, operating deficits at 70% of municipalities, meaning simply that they are having to rely on 2026 budget money to fund expenditure that was incurred in prior periods, which obviously takes money away from service delivery from the 2026 year. We also wanting to highlight that the capabilities of running infrastructure projects, maintaining existing infrastructure, those are quite weak within municipalities within the province. We have identified still, through our conditional assessments of wastewater treatment works, significant areas of disrepair, which obviously has a direct impact on the dignity of the citizens that should enjoy sanitation services, and also it has a direct impact on the environment where harm is being caused. We did some water quality testing at one of the municipalities there, Dr. Pixika Gaisakaseme, and we found that the quality of water that is available in the taps does not meet the appropriate levels that are required. And so we use our powers to issue material irregularities and are giving the relevant accounting officers the opportunity to attend to the matter. In the Northern Cape, Francis Bart District Municipality is the only clean audit. We've seen some progress in that the disclaimers have moved in the right direction. In fact, but for the regression at Gummiesberg, we would have eliminated the disclaimers in this province. We don't have any adverse opinions. The concentration is on the qualified and unqualified audit opinions. Financial health is a concern, with the majority of municipalities showing some financial health pressures. 71% of municipalities in the Northern Cape had unfunded budgets. 52% of them registered operational deficits on their financial statements. 66% have got current assets that are less than their current liabilities, meaning that the money they owe is more than the money they have available. And what that has done is that many of them don't pay their creditors on time, but also some of them are starting to use the conditional grants that disclaimers have reduced significantly. We had 9 at the beginning of this term of administration. We're now at just 1, which is Ditsobotla. We've got some adverse and the majority of municipalities in the qualified space. There has been significant action and support from the provincial government. Provincial Treasury, working together with SALGA as well as the provincial COGTA, led by the Office of the Premier, have worked significantly hard to provide support on submissions, on eradicating disclaimers. What needs to be done now is to translate all of that work towards moving municipalities out of the qualified space and eventually out of the unqualified space. The delay in doing this is going to cause further delays in correcting financial health pressures, correcting infrastructure degradation, as well as correcting service delivery disturbances. We also want to highlight that in the Western Cape, out of the 39 clean audits, 21 of them sit in the Western Cape. So the Western Cape remains the area where there's a concentration of clean audits. In this year, we are also recording that, unfortunately, the Western Cape has been regressing over the last 4 years. When we started with this term of administration for local government, there were no disclaimers and no adverse audit opinions. For the last 4 years, Kanaland has been disclaimed. Laingsburg has had an adverse audit opinion. We're also starting to see pressure in terms of the quality of infrastructure, pressure in terms of even financial health across a number of municipalities in the Western Cape. I then would like to move on to the metros. Of the 8 metros, some of them I've mentioned as I went along. Of the 8 metros, we do believe that they do warrant particular attention. Together, they look after 54% of the expenditure budget of local government. Together, they look after almost 40% of the population of South Africa and its households. And together, they are responsible for significant service delivery. They're responsible for delivering on our aspirations of driving economic growth, inclusive and sustainable economic growth. They are a central part of how we hope to stimulate the economy, a central part of how we hope to expand the infrastructure that's available to us. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is that of all the categories of municipalities, metros are going backwards. Local municipalities have improved on a net basis. Intermediate cities have improved. District municipalities have improved on a net basis. Metros are going backwards. Where we started, we used to have a clean audit. 1, it has regressed, being the city of Cape Town. They regressed on supply chain management issues, procurement issues that led to non-compliance, which then landed them in the unqualified space with findings. They did submit quality financial statements, so no problem there. They did submit a quality performance report, no problem there. What they need to do now is sort out the controls matters that led them down on procurement. eThekwini Metro has been in this category of unqualified with findings for over a decade now. They don't struggle to compile financial statements and haven't struggled for a very long time. The CFO and the finance team get that job done. However, what we're seeing in eThekwini is that how the functions, the basic functions across different directorates within the metro, how they collaborate is still a problem. There's fragmentation as they seek to deliver services. There's ongoing non-compliance with the law around procurement in particular, leading to significant leakages. There's ill attention to ensuring that when funds are available to drive infrastructure projects, that they're spent properly. unfortunately, too often, they're not being spent properly, leading to delays in infrastructure and also poor quality work that's delivered by the contractors chosen. We're seeing that in eThekwini Metro, there's little attention being paid to even performance planning, monitoring, reporting, and accountability for performance. So what this unqualified audit opinion for a decade has done, it has unfortunately delayed progress in actually fixing the basics that should make for how a metro functions in delivering on its given objectives. Then you've got the city of Joburg. The city of Joburg operates through a number of big entities. City Power, Pick It Up, Joburg Water, Joburg Roads, the bus company. They hold significant parts of the budget, they hold significant parts of the service delivery mandate. Most of those entities have got unqualified audit opinions with findings. And I want to highlight that they've had that level of outcome for many years, some of them for more than a decade, meaning that they can put the financial statements together for the audit process, but their financial governance is weak. The procurement issues continue to be plagued by non-compliance and leakage. Their performance management remains quite weak. The city itself, outside of the entities, has got a qualified audit opinion this year. It had been unqualified for many years, and this time around, they were unable to correct the errors we identified through the audit and jump to an unqualified. They've been relying on the audit process for many years, and this time they couldn't do it. So what you have is a city at its core that is unable to present credible financial statements. And then they do benefit somewhat from the credible financial statements from the entities. And when you look at it together, it's an unqualified audit opinion. We do want to highlight that the city of Joburg needs ongoing attention from oversight as well as from the executive. It's crucial that the institutional arrangements within Joburg be attended to. If we don't do that, we're going to continue on this slide where financial health deteriorates, which is what we're seeing, where service delivery continues to be compromised, which is what we are living. We're going to continue on the path where investors that look at the city of Joburg don't look at it in the way that they might have years ago, in that the interest of putting capital within the balance sheet of the city of Cape Town, or even capital within the city of Cape Town as individual investors, that interest will continue to diminish. And then if we look at the qualified audit opinions, out of the 8, you've got 5 that sit with qualified audit opinions. Buffalo City and Nelson Mandela Bay Metro have been in this category for many years, and I'm glad, Honorable Chair, that they've continued to enjoy the attention of your committee and its honorable members. City of Tshwane Metro also been in this category for a number of years now, alongside Mangaung. And then City of Ekurhuleni regressed this year on financial statement credibility. In fact, what we're seeing is that, on the whole, the metros are regressing not just on audit outcomes, but importantly on financial health, but also on service delivery. We looked at their infrastructure projects, particularly on the housing aspect, because they have significant responsibilities to help us build human settlements. And we looked at how they were managing the grants that were available to them to build houses. And we found that there was a big struggle in ensuring that projects are delivered on time, at the right cost, and at the right value. Simply put, it tells us that the metros do not have the institutional capabilities that we can depend upon to drive infrastructure investment. And so as we think about how we're going to drive the expansion of our infrastructure, as well as the maintenance of our existing infrastructure, we're going to have to think about how we support metros, because the assumption that we would have made that they have the institutional capabilities has proven to be incorrect. all role players within the ecosystem that is around metros are going to have to think differently around how we operate on metros. I did say that we would look at the audit outcomes in this yellow category. They do warrant significant attention because these 117 municipalities look after 50% of the expenditure budget. Together, they serve more than 10 million households, including 77 municipalities that provide water in this 117, tells us that they have significant service delivery obligations. When we issue audit outcomes, quite often, there is a tendency to want to celebrate this category of unqualified with findings. Now, if you are, let's say you are Madibeng, and you've been struggling with disclaimers or audit opinion for a long time, and then you keep moving, and ultimately you get to unqualified with findings, that is worth celebrating. If you are Beaufort West, and you reach unqualified with findings for the first time after a long time, that we must celebrate. And if you are City of Cape Town and you regressed into this category for a specific reason, that we should not lament too loudly. Our challenge is about the municipalities that sit in this category for too long. And I want to place into your lap, honorable members, a task that says, let's start to push back on complacency in this yellow category. And I say complacency because if you look at the bar on the bottom of the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see that, yes, we've got 30 that have been in this unqualified with findings category for 1 year. And then we've got 43 that have been there for 2 to 4 years. We're not lamenting about those. Our concern is about the ones that will be in this category for 5 years or more. 24 for 5 years to 9 years, 20 for 10 years or more. These 44 together are complacent because the fact that year after year they have an unqualified audit opinion with findings and then don't make much effort to move out of it can only tell us that they are complacent. It tells us that the leaders in this environment are quite comfortable in this category. And maybe it's because we tend to celebrate them and we say, at least you can publish credible financial statements. And then maybe it's also because we tend to worry more about the non-submissions, the disclaimers, and the adverse, and maybe even the qualified. And so the unqualified with findings escape our scrutiny. 30 years into democracy, we should all be insisting that nobody should be staying in this category for too long. It's good on the way somewhere, but it's a dangerous category. If you look at City of Joburg, they were in this category for a very long time, and now they've regressed. Maybe I'd also like to spend some time sharing some insight on what's in this category, and hopefully that'll help us land the point about why we should all be uncomfortable with this category. Out of the 117 municipalities, 110 of them submitted, 110 of them had non-compliance, material non-compliance with key laws and regulations, especially in the area of procurement. Meaning that when they procure goods and services, they are not doing so based on the rules of the game, and thereby incurring significant levels of irregular expenditure. We also find that in this category, the reporting is not credible. 82% of these municipalities in this category submitted financial statements that did not have credibility. They relied on the audit process to correct those financial statements and thereby publish credible financial reports. The reason that's important is that it tells us that financial management practices are weak. It means that during the course of the year, the financial report that should form the basis of a conversation between the mayor and the mayoral committee and the administration led by the city manager, that conversation is not based on credible information. So the ability to make decisions about resource allocation is quite weak. It tells us that the report that reaches council on financial performance is not credible, and it renders the oversight conversation at council ineffective. It tells us that the information that's reaching the provincial treasury and the national treasury is not information that can be relied upon. and thereby weakening the ability of province and national to oversee and monitor local government. And then if you look at this area of the performance reports, you'll see that 75% submitted performance reports that did not have credibility. In simple terms, it says that the monthly budget implementation statement that is given by the accounting officer to the mayor doesn't have credibility. And therefore, we are unable to drive proper monitoring of performance, and we're unable to drive accountability for performance. It tells us that the reports that are reaching council on how the SDBIP is being implemented during the course of the year, those reports don't have credibility, the conversation is not appropriate. I shudder to think how the conversation around the mid-year budget adjustment goes when there isn't credible information available. The decisions around how resources will be reprioritized are not informed by credible information. So we harp on this, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, because it highlights that we are not yet building institutional capabilities and practices that are so required for performance management, that are so required for accountability purposes. And if we delay, we continue to delay, the institutions will continue to get weak. And we will all continue to have a dissonance around, but we have so many resources that are sitting in local government, but the delivery is poor. Where is the problem? And if we continue to delay on pushing back on this complacency, the false sense of achievement will prevail. And we will never get to a point where professionals that operate in these municipalities start to show up differently, perform differently, and deliver differently. In this category, we're seeing that poor financial health prevails with high levels of unauthorized expenditure, fruitless and wasteful expenditure growing, and a number of these municipalities demonstrating some financial health pressure. We're also seeing that there is a lack of consequence management, which says a lot about the culture of impunity in far too many of these institutions. It is in this category where 30% of our material irregularities have been identified, including those that are about financial loss, as well as those that are about causing harm. So if I can leave you with nothing else today, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, I hope it is that you start to think differently about this category of unqualified with findings. If I move on to the next slide, we set out the challenge around the financial reporting. I did say that many municipalities rely on the audit process to compile financial statements that are, to publish financial statements that are credible. If we had audited and completed our audits based on what was initially submitted, we wouldn't be able to say 61% presented credible financial reports. We'd be looking only at 24%, because only 24% submitted credible financial reports. The areas where municipalities struggle in terms of submitting quality information relate to key matters that confront service delivery. This slide, what it's doing is it is telling us that financial reporting misstatements should not be the preoccupation of the CFO only. They should enjoy the attention of everyone in that municipality, every HOD, the MM, as well as every member of the mayoral committee and the mayor himself or herself. Because the areas they're struggling with relate to receivables and revenue. In simple terms, it's about poor billing practices, poor collections, not knowing who owes you, not ensuring that the money that's due to the municipality is being collected. The second area is about fixed and movable assets. It's really about knowing where the assets of the municipality are, what condition they are in, having a maintenance plan to look after them, funding and budgeting for that maintenance plan and executing on it. When that doesn't happen, the infrastructure continues to deteriorate and service delivery become the norm. Service delivery failures become the norm. So the matters we're raising around financial reporting and financial management are essentially a reflection of how the municipalities are functioning, the basic management and service delivery obligations in terms of how they're being met. It's not just matters that only accountants and auditors should worry about. This slide, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, deals with matters around the use of consultants for financial reporting. It's an old story, which we've said before, so I know I'm going to sound like a stuck record. I will highlight just a couple of points here. One is that we went back to our records and we checked how things were 10 years ago. 10 years ago, 179 municipalities used consultants for this purpose of preparing financial statements for audit, together spending 586 million rand. This time around, in 2024-25, it is 225 municipalities using consultants for the same purpose, collectively spending 1.6 billion rand. It's telling us that the situation is not getting better, it's getting worse. We looked carefully to see why municipalities were using consultants every single year. And we found that, yes, there are some vacancies, but the real issue is about a lack of skills, meaning that there are people employed in the municipality to do this work, and they're unable to do it, so consultants are hired year after year. We also asked our auditors to check, why is it that every year there's this recurring appointment of consultants? And the feedback we get is that there is no plan to reduce spending on these consultants. There is no plan to drive skills transfer. And what it tells us is that there is no plan to build institutional capability to run financial management within the municipality. The things that the consultants are doing in this environment, spending this 1.6 billion rand, are preparing and reviewing financial statements, dealing with the fixed asset register to prepare it for audit, not as a management tool, preparing VAT returns and PAYE returns to SARS. These are basic functions that the municipality should be able to build capability for. Submitting these VAT returns is a monthly issue. It is not something that should need experts that then provide the capabilities to do. We're also seeing that there's still inappropriate spend in this regard, where municipalities will hire a consultant to submit VAT returns and then pay them a percentage of the input VAT that's coming back to the municipality. We also kept asking our auditors to get us data on why is it that despite the spend on consultants, we still get poor quality financial statements, even in the areas where consultants did the work. And the feedback is much the same as what we told you last year. It is that in most instances, the work of the consultant is not being reviewed by the people employed in the municipality. We believe, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, that this is a reflection of the posture of the leaders in that environment. It's a reflection of the culture of tolerating non-performance and a culture of neglecting and delaying building institutional capabilities. This story on the use of consultants for financial reporting, you could superimpose onto a conversation about infrastructure management and other basic functions of a municipality. Institutional capability building is being delayed. The slide that's coming now is dealing with performance reporting. It's much the same as what we would have said when we dealt with financial reporting. 27% of municipalities submitted quality performance reports for audit, and then they used the audit process to, the rest of them used the audit process to then correct misstatements. What we're seeing, therefore, is that performance planning, monitoring, reporting, evaluating, performance management remains very weak. The legislation and prescripts around this area are very clear on the duties that should be taken on by different members of the leadership within the municipality. There is no lack of clarity about what's expected in managing organizational performance or even individual performance. The formats are there, the requirements are clear. What we're seeing is that there's an ongoing neglect to building the institutional capability that will support effective performance management within municipalities. We then, and of course, this compromises not just delivery, but also the confidence of citizens, because they are unable to trust that municipalities will do what they say they will do. If we look at the area of non-compliance, this remains quite an issue for the majority of municipalities. In fact, if you look at provinces like the Free State and the Northwest, all of their municipalities had material findings on non-compliance. Much of the non-compliance relates to poor financial management, but also the vast majority of the issues are about procurement and expenditure management. It's really about not observing the prescripts that define how procurement should happen. And of course, that leads to high levels of irregular expenditure. And you'll see on the next slide that the irregular expenditure that's there is still very high. We're reporting this year 40 billion rand of consolidated irregular expenditure, 23 billion rand of it in the metros. We are often very cautious to quote the number of 40 billion rand irregular expenditure because at least 40% of municipalities did not disclose the full extent of their irregular expenditure. So we know that the number is underreported. However, what it tells us is that the trend is still upwards. It also tells us that the tendency to not deal with irregular expenditure is still quite high. And of course, that means consequence management is not happening in the way it should. Resource recovery is not happening, and of course, discipline continues to deteriorate within municipalities. I will then move on to the slide that deals with infrastructure projects. As we've done in the past, we went to visit a number of infrastructure projects. This time around, 129 projects were inspected. We found problems at least 78% of those. And the problems we see start at the level of planning. Just planning for infrastructure projects is a problem, and preparing projects is a problem. We're also seeing that procurement is an issue. The process of procuring the services from contractors and even the consultants that help the municipality, those processes are plagued by non-compliances. In 86% of instances, we found non-compliance in the procurement process. When there's non-compliance with procurement, sometimes, in fact, often, it leads to the appointment of a contractor that is not up to the task. Either that contractor doesn't have the skill, they don't even have the CIDB grading for that level of work, they don't have the track record, they don't have the capital or the balance sheet to sustain a project of that nature, and they often aren't even able to have the payment guarantees that they should, or the performance guarantees that they should have to protect the interest of the municipality. And so what then happens is that the contractors that are appointed effectively are unlikely to deliver from day one. And then once the contractor is appointed, there's a tendency to not manage that contractor properly. So even when projects are delayed, when there's poor quality work, you end up with a contractor not being held accountable, even if the contract itself, the service level agreement, provides for it. And what that tells us is that the people employed in the municipality to monitor these projects are not being disciplined or effective in monitoring and holding contractors accountable. We also looked at how the grants were being used, because there are a number of significant grants that reach local government from the national level to drive infrastructure expansion. And what we found is that in a number of instances, the grants were not being used properly. Sometimes the grants will be used for operational expenditure, as I talked about, especially in the Free State. And in our report, we do set out where we found those instances. We also found that when the grants are then being applied, the quality of spending is very poor. On infrastructure, even once the infrastructure is in the ground, the ability to look after it is very poor. So we went to conduct conditional assessments on a number of infrastructure assets and found that they were not being maintained or renewed, with grave consequences for service delivery. I'm now reaching probably the second last part of my inputs for this morning, Honourable Chair, which is the one on financial health. We are seeing that financial distress is systemic and it is persistent. A large number of municipalities are facing significant financial health pressures. You may have noticed when I went through some of the provinces, I highlighted the ones where those pressures are really, really significant. What we're seeing is that you've got 35% of municipalities that are demonstrating good financial health. And then you've got the rest of them, 40% with concerns, and a good 25% that have got unfavorable financial health assessments. The things we look at include instances where unfunded budgets are being approved. And you'll see that there are 116 municipalities that approved unfunded budgets. And this despite the advice from provincial treasuries and the national treasury. Many of them have been approving unfunded budgets for many years consecutively. We're seeing high levels of unauthorized expenditure, high levels of deficits, in that the income is less than the expenditure for the year. And of course, when you do that, when you are spending more than you are raising as income, you end up not paying creditors. And so creditors wait a long time to get the money for the goods and services that they would have delivered. The creditors that suffer the most are those that are ESCOM and the water boards. And of course, what happens is that they then charge penalties and interest when they are being paid late, and the number for fruitless and wasteful expenditure continues to increase. We're seeing that the basic disciplines of financial management being weak is catching up with municipalities on financial health and their viability. And yes, there are a few municipalities that have got inherent vulnerabilities in terms of viability, but far too many municipalities are unable to manage their affairs so that they raise the revenue that they should, collect it as they should, manage their indigent policies and revenues as they should, and manage their expenditure properly. Far too many of them are committing to expenditures when they know they won't have the money available to do what's required. And what's being compromised is service delivery, it is the creditors, but also is the infrastructure, because what happens is that the existing infrastructure is there not being maintained, which then causes even greater financial losses through electricity and water distribution losses, but also interrupts service delivery. This time around, which is the last big point I want to make, we've been able to raise material irregularities as we've done in the past. And we use these MIs to drive a few behavioral changes which we believe are adding value and will continue to add value going forward. As the honourable members will remember, the powers that we have were the basis of the 2019 amendment to the Public Audit Act, which really set us up as an institution that can serve as a complementary mechanism to drive consequence management and resource protection. And so we don't take over the duties of accounting officers or the mayors or council. Ours is to serve as a complementary mechanism. And the thing that what we can do is when we see a matter that is a material irregularity, we raise it for the attention of the accounting officer, give him or her the space to deal with it, and when they fail, we can raise stronger recommendations, which are then in the audit report, which is a tool for oversight. We then can also take binding remedial action, as we've done in a number of instances, and we can also refer matters to other public bodies for investigation. And as a very last resort, we issue a certificate of debt. The MIs we've issued have led to some resource protection, 1.69 billion rand of resources being protected out of the 10 billion rand we identified of financial losses. The gap between the two tells us that it is far better to prevent the problem and detect it quickly and act on it than to wait for an MI, because when you're chasing it 5 years after the initial transaction, it's difficult to get that money back. We've also seen that the MIs we raised on substantial harm to institutions have actually helped us to get submissions of financial statements and performance reports, by the way. For the first time this year, we've seen 100% submission of performance reports. Maybe that's another milestone I should have mentioned. And much of it is because of the material irregularities that we issued. We've also issued MIs relating to disclaimers of audit opinion, and that has also contributed to the step change in the number of disclaimers coming down. We issued MIs, and you'll see a high number there of 110 on instances where we believe that harm is being caused to the general public. And that it relates to the wastewater treatment works, the water quality matters, the matters around landfill sites that are not being properly operated, which are causing harm to the public and to the environment. We've seen how the MIs are changing behavior amongst the municipalities, in that some of them are fixing these facilities, but also behavior at the level of other bodies, such as the Department of Water and Sanitation. You would have seen how they've acted on our referrals to go and hold municipalities accountable and then drive investment into fixing the infrastructure. We've done a similar set of activity with the department responsible for environmental affairs. Some of the referrals we've done are to the Hawks, to the SIU, to the Public Protector, and all of that is starting to change how we collaborate with these critical partners in the integrity system, and it is also leading us to driving the protection of resources and to start making sure that there are consequences when people do wrong with public funds. Last year, we issued a certificate of debt in Ngaka Mudiri Molema, and that was late last year, of 4.6 million rand against the then municipal manager. And this time around, we are working on a few other certificates of debt, which are still in process. So in a nutshell, the work we've been able to do in applying these powers is having some impact. We could have much more if there was greater responsiveness, especially on the part of accounting officers and councils. However, we do take some credit for the impact we've been able to demonstrate. And of course, we take strength from it because it emboldens our teams and encourages them to continue with implementing this mandate given to us. And as I conclude, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, I want to highlight that the root causes for these accountability failures remain as we have reported on them before. We highlight that it's important that municipal administration be stabilized, be characterized by expertise and competence, and that there be accountability for performance at that level. We also highlight that mayors and councils have significant work to do to ensure that the entire governance arrangements within the municipality function, starting with the role of the senior managers, going straight into the role of internal audit committees, and ensuring even the committees of council operate properly. We also are highlighting that it's crucial that the provincial governments and the legislatures also do their part. As we look towards a new administration following the November local government elections, we believe that it's going to be important for provincial and national governments to support local government as it transitions so that we maintain the gains we've made around submissions and disclaimers and start to set a different path for the 7th administration of local government. And setting that different path would be starting with ensuring that the executive leaders that are deployed by political parties be people who have the capability and the integrity that are equal to the task. If we don't do that, the accountability failures in local government will continue to get worse. It's going to be crucial as we go forward that there be significant investment in capacitating, inducting and capacitating the new leaders in local government. Every councillor should have the benefit of a thorough induction program as well as ongoing capacity building. And as the Office of the AG, we undertake to work with SALGA, with the Department of COGTA, and the National Treasury and others to ensure that we do induct the new leaders. And then, of course, we do take some inspiration from the efforts made to stabilize administration by ensuring that the Section 56 managers enjoy some stability. It's going to be important that that stability be maintained, but also the type of stability that's maintained must be informed by the appointment of the right people, in that is people of competence and expertise, and also accompanied by ongoing accountability processes that manage performance and drive consequence management where there is non-performance or transgression. We are a long way from where we began, Chair. However, there's significant work still ahead for all of us in the accountability ecosystem. The story I've tried to tell this morning, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, is one that reflects some green shoots, but highlights that the work ahead of us is still significant. It's crucial that we use the insights that we're sharing today, Honourable Chair, to illuminate all of our understanding about where the issues are, outside of the noise, but where the real issues are, and to inform the actions that we will take individually, but importantly collectively, so that we do build a better local government sphere and ultimately for the benefit of the citizens of South Africa. I will end my remarks there, Chair, and hand over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Auditor General. Very, very, very encouraging picture, and certainly showing a lot of areas of concern. And for us, it really gives a very clear sense of how municipalities' finances are being managed and how service delivery issues are being impacted upon. Certainly, it's a very good guide in terms of how we, as the committees of Parliament, will be following up on ensuring accountability and also consequence management on how to improve the performance of the municipalities. Honourable members, there you are. You have received the report. Beautiful presentation from Ms. Maluleke. May I invite the members to make their comments? I'm going to be just going around to all the members are going to give us their own comments. You've been all over. You've been to different provinces. You spent days and nights and sometimes throughout the night dealing with these issues. Now we see how the impact of this overall involvement of Parliament, executive, provincial, municipal, all the different spheres trying to impact on the audit outcomes. So we'd like to get your comments at this point. I don't have any hand up. I'll go by my alphabet from where I sit. Honorable Daibosh, followed by Van Zyl, and then followed by Direko. So we'll just follow the order, and you give us your reaction. Thank you, Honorable Daibosh.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning to the AG, Deputy, all the officials, and good morning to my colleagues, and good morning to everybody that's present. Chair, just want to congratulate the AG on a very, very comprehensive and telling report. It's nothing new to us, Chair. We've been around. We have visited many, as you said, of these municipalities. We know, I can call them problem children. And what the AG is confirming is those same problem children. Said Ditsobola, the Maluti Apofung, in fact, still problem Maluti Apofung, in terms of submitting annual financial statements. So, Chair, I don't want to, I'm not going to go back in any specifics of who's got what problem in terms of municipalities, but something that is coming out very strongly for me here, Chair. And this will continue to happen year after year if we don't step up on consequence management. We are too accommodating, we are too soft, and we are allowing these people to continue doing the wrong thing. And it's not like they're doing it without knowing or realizing that they're doing wrong. They're doing it because they know that nothing is going to happen to them. There is no serious effort or hard effort in terms of consequence management, Chair. Now, if I am going to do something wrong this year, and I get away and with just a warning or something, or not even a warning, just, why did you do this? What is happening here? And then I get suspended, and then I come back a couple of months later, I'm going to do the same thing because it's in my nature. It's within me to do these things. And unless people can see examples being made, and harsh and hard examples being made out of the people that keeps on doing the wrong things and keeps on doing corruption, we are not going to get to the end of this. There's such, I can see clear improvement. There is beautiful improvement in some of the municipalities. We notice that, but there's those ones, Chair, that like I said to you in the past, it's like we're throwing money into this big black hole and we don't know where it's going to end. And the sad part of this is the public, the community, the taxpayers' money, all right? They're still driving and having to dodge potholes. They still not having water. They still have to worry about being sick or getting sick by drinking the water. It doesn't end. We need to, Chair, and we need to. And we know some serious municipalities where we need to enforce consequence management and make sure that it does happen there. Chair, thank you, Chair. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Taibosh. Let's come to Honorable Van Zyl.
Morning. Thank you, Chairperson, and also thank you to the Auditor-General and her team. We heard this morning that, the AG found that 131 municipalities had material non-compliance with consequence management legislation. In her view, is that improving or deteriorating compared to previous years? And what are the primary reasons for municipalities to sort of continue to fail in this area? Because you'd also said that we had been around to municipalities throughout the country as the COGTA committee. So, are there any examples of where municipalities have successfully implemented consequence management and have improved their audit outcomes that she can pick up? Then on the issue of the certificate of debt, the AG reported that only one certificate of debt has been issued in Ngaka Mutiri, which we heard earlier this year or late last year. And that, I think she said 3 other processes have started. What I want to understand, in her opinion, is what are the obstacles that's preventing us to use this issuing of certificates of debt? And I suppose more to the point, has the introduction of certificates of debt changed the behavior of accounting officers or municipal managers? Has she been able to pick up anything like that? Then also based on sort of the current material irregularities, how many additional cases could potentially qualify for certificate of debt processes if corrective actions in the municipal councils is not taken? Then she did mention quickly on the metro, she spoke about eThekwini, she spoke about Joburg, and I wanted to find out on eThekwini, on her comment that, there remains poor infrastructure projects, the quality is bad. My question really on both, I suppose, Joburg and eThekwini, has she noticed that the presence of the presidential task team being there been successful in improving service delivery at all? Because you did mention, for instance, for Joburg that they were not able to correct what she has pointed out. And then just lastly, maybe a comment or a question for the AG is that would you say, AG, after reviewing the 24-25 outcomes, that it is fair to maybe conclude that local government's biggest challenge is not a lack of legislation or even policies or even the audit findings, but rather the continuous failure of those entrusted with public resources to act on known problems and enforce the consequences? For that, Chairperson, I'm concluding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask the AG to respond, but maybe they are not the best people to respond to the impact on the presidential working group. I think we should focus those questions to the municipality. What the outcome might be, it might be difficult to track where it would have come from. And so I'm just giving the AG leeway. If you wish to comment on it, you are welcome. If you are not able to, we understand. but the rest of the issues you could respond to. Thank you very much,
Apologies,
AG.
Chairperson. I'd
Sorry?
like the AG to comment on
Yes.
that. The presidential task teams has been there for more than a year, which would have included some of the areas of this audit outcome and her findings. So I would like to know if there's been any improvement since those sort of bomb squads has been sent into those municipalities, and it's something that she can actually measure. Thank you.
Okay, I still insist that she will have to, if she wishes to comment on it, that's fine. I will not insist that she responds to it, because the outcome of what's happening in eThekwini is what she would audit, but the impact of each different unit that's been deployed there may not be her capability or may not be her area that she need to focus on. So I'm just leaving it open. If she would like to comment on it, that's fine. But if she doesn't, it's not a mark against the AG, because it's also the focus as to what is it the presidential working group is doing as opposed to what else is not being done in eThekwini. That's an issue that we can discuss when we're sitting with the eThekwini municipality. So that's fine. You are interested in it. If she is able to do that, to respond, let's do it. But if she cannot, she's not obliged, not because she doesn't want to, but it was our understanding as to what's happening. We need to leave it flexible for her team to indicate if they are able to track that. If they are not, it's okay. Please proceed, AG.
Thank you very much. Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Honourable Chair, and to the honourable members for their comments and questions. I do agree with Honourable Taibosh that what's required is for us to step up on consequence management and to rely on the AG's office or the AG herself to issue a certificate of debt as the major tool for consequence management is not going to get us to where we need to go. It's going to be crucial that those appointed as the stewards of public institutions, duly appointed and given the authority to act on transgressions, do their part. I want to also highlight that we're not seeing significant problems or obstacles in issuing certificates of debt as an institution per se. We are concerned that the accounting officers are too slow in dealing with the matters we're raising. The COD, provincial legislature and administration, as well as the National Assembly. And so if you see a COD, I believe wholeheartedly that it is an invitation for all of us to worry about what else is failing in the accountability ecosystem. We've issued a COD. We are looking at 3 more in the MFMA space. The process is one that includes an independent advisory committee that is there to advise me as Auditor General about the appropriateness of issuing that COD. They look at the submissions from our office. They give the accounting officer who's going to be affected by the COD the opportunity to not only submit written representations, but also to present themselves for oral representations. And that advisory committee then applies its mind on the facts of the matter and then also the matters around justice, so that when we issue a COD, it is one that has enjoyed the attention of different minds and experts advising me at the point of issuing it. So it does take long, but it's not so much an obstacle, but a designed process that we believe protects not just the office, but also the individuals that will be affected by it. I would want to say that the trick to us protecting resources, driving performance in local government is going to come when the people appointed to lead these institutions are people who have the capability and the inclination to use the powers and authority that they have to push back on a culture of impunity. In terms of the progress, and I want to thank you, Honourable Chair, for indicating that I don't have to comment on things that we've not audited. We've not audited the work of the bomb squad, and also maybe just a reminder that this report deals with matters as at the end of June 2025. An audit by its nature is backward looking. It's useful in that it gives you a sense of where the risks are, but it doesn't tell you what's happening today. I think as we go forward, we will start to see the impact of that work in the audit outcomes and in the performance of those municipalities. At the end of the day, the issue is going to be about how the people employed in that environment operate. Maybe just by way of example, there's a small rural town in Free State, in the Northwest, I beg your pardon, the Northwest, Ratlo. They had years of disclaimers and couldn't get out of a disclaimer. Also using consultants to prepare financial statements. A couple of things happened in the 2025 financial year. One is that an accounting officer and CFO were appointed, and there were people who then decided to act differently on this. The provincial legislature conducted an oversight visit at Ratlo and arrived at a set of recommendations and resolutions. A combination of the work of the accounting officer and the CFO, as well as that of the provincial legislature conducting oversight in that municipality, led to a scenario where Ratlo decided to compile their own financial statements themselves for the first time in many years, and they actually got out of disclaimer and are now at a qualified audit opinion. That gives us every expectation that because you've now got people employed in that municipality who have the will and the capability to do what's required, you'll start to see attention towards better performance and accountability and better institutional capacity. If you look even at another example in the Free State, and I'm giving these examples deliberately because the Northwest and Free State are the worst performing provinces, but inside there are some inspirational stories of what happens at institutional level. Dihlabeng is in Bethlehem, had a qualified audit opinion for 7 years, qualified for 7 years. This time around, following the appointment of an accounting officer and a CFO, who implemented the necessary corrective action arising from the previous audits, you now have that municipality improving from qualified to unqualified with findings. Again, we have every expectation that because you've now got leaders who have decided to set the municipality on a different path, we'll start to see that municipality moving in the right direction, and that will benefit the people of Bethlehem. I make this to agree with you, Honorable Van Zyl, that the problem is really about the failure of the people that are entrusted with running these institutions. And that's where the opportunity is. If we get them doing the right thing, we'll start to see a different set of outcomes, not just on audit, but on service delivery. Thank you.
Honorable Van Zyl, your hand is still up. Do you still want to come in?
Apologies, Chairperson, that's an old hand.
Okay, but you're fine with the answers? We are proceeding. If there's a new question, you can come back later. Let's pick up on Labuskachne. You've got your hand up. Good morning, ma'am. You will be the next one. Then after that, we'll go to Direko. I'll follow the other members. Honorable Labuskachne.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much to the Auditor General for, as always, well informative report. I have a few questions, and I want to start off the comment on credible reporting and the influence of that in the municipalities is one of the root causes for material irregularities and all those things. You've mentioned, Auditor General, that the reliable reporting that actually then goes to, that has to be the basis for a discussion between the mayor and the MM and CFO, and eventually go to councils for decision making on various levels, is very often then not that reliable. My question is, from specifically an oversight capacity is who in these councils is supposed to pick up on the fact that these reports are not reliable. In my opinion, it should be the CFO. And I ask, do these municipalities or these people appointed, and do you in your auditing can you pick up on that? Do they have the knowledge and the skills, and or is it also a case of the internal audit? Who are the structures in municipalities? If the people appointed in these positions doesn't know that their information is not reliable, who should pick up on that so that we can improve on that? Then you've also in the report referred to some of the municipalities who are making use of consultants and still have a qualified audit. Would it be able for us to get a list of those municipalities? And I would also like to, if it's proper for you, to give us an idea of what could be the consequence management for those municipalities and or the companies or the consultants that they are using, because obviously it's a waste of money. Then the problems in the infrastructure planning, you referred to that across the country in many provinces, there is a problem on infrastructure projects, and it starts with the planning. Now, I also know, and from your side, and I will ask the department that as well, if it's necessary, is it a lack of skills, in technical skills in municipalities, or and does it play a role? And also the monitoring of these projects, you also refer to it specifically. Is there a requirement, say for instance, that projects should be monitored if projects is being coupled to grants? And if not, should that not become a requirement? I know that you're not Treasury, but recommendations from your side would also strengthen our hand, as we've seen in the past year in oversight. Then there's a lot to be said about consequence management. Since I came in this portfolio, I talk about consequence management. Now the whole committee, we are talking about consequence management. There's still a lack of accountability and consequence management, and unfunded budgets and grants that you specifically also mentioned, grants that are not used properly. Isn't it time maybe to introduce something like that municipalities, before they receive a new tranche or a grant, have to have a certified disciplinary action register linked to the audit findings? They should have a proof of finalized investigations into financial misconduct, and there should be evidence of referrals to investigative authorities where required. If these three things can be built in as a requirement for municipalities before they can receive a grant, in your opinion, I know that you don't have the authority to implement it, but in your opinion, as Auditor General, would it support and would it help municipalities to get out of this material statements of irregular and fruitless and wasteful management, financial management? And then I would like, the last question is, could we get a list of the municipalities that are in the unqualified with findings zone, the yellow zone, for more than 10 years? There's a specific reference to 20 municipalities for 9 or 10 years and 24 for more than 10 years. So that maybe from an oversight position, yes, we have to look at the 8 disclaimers and we have to look at the unqualified audits, but also look at the yellow zone as you refer to it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. AG, please deal with those.
Thank you, Honourable Labuskaghni. Certainly, we'll provide you with a list of the municipalities that have been in the unqualified zone for 10 years or more. Some of them include, so we'll give you the municipalities and the entities as well. Then at least you have a feel for where you might direct your oversight activity. And then we'll also give you a list of the instances where municipalities use consultants but still ended up in the unqualified space. So that list we can make available to you. You asked, Honourable Tsakani, about the reliability of information and on whom councils can rely. So council will be made up of people who are not accountants and auditors, that we understand. What we would encourage is for two things to happen. One is for the council to ensure that they get a specific sign-off on the credibility of that information from the CFO and the accounting officer, specifically signing off on the credibility. So that if it should ever come out that that information lacked credibility, the council can hold them accountable. That's the first thing. The second thing would be to say, have an audience with internal audit and audit committee. Sit down with them and ask them to specifically confirm that they have also looked at that information and can verify that it is characterized by credibility. And that information must not just be the financial information, but the performance information as well. It's crucial that the audit committees and internal audit be seized not only with financial information and reports, but also with performance information and even a response plan from the previous year's audit on how they're dealing with compliance matters. Far too many internal audit teams and audit committees are seized with matters around financial reporting, and they don't look at compliance or on performance information. And that's mainly because they tend to have a habit of focusing only on financial information, notwithstanding the specific provisions of the Treasury around what the role of internal audit and audit committees ought to be. So we need to start having a different conversations on the expectations we have on internal audit. The reason I'm suggesting that the CFO and the MM also sign off is because they are responsible for ensuring that internal audit has the resources and the space to do what they're supposed to do. And that audit committee similarly has the ability to conduct its affairs properly. In many instances, we find that internal audit is set up as a function, but it's not given the resources it needs to do its work, or its work is not being taken seriously by the accounting officer and the different Section 56 managers. That is a tone that the accounting officer must set, and it's also a tone that the mayor and the mayoral committee, the speaker and the council must insist upon. We must start deriving value from internal audit. If you look at the metros, what the outcomes I shared around how they're doing on financial reporting, where they are on performance information, where they are on compliance. I didn't even talk about the challenges on IT governance problems that they have. One then asks the question, where is internal audit in all of this? The metros collectively spend over 430 million rand on internal audit. And so you got to start asking, where's the value of the spend? Where are they spending their money? And if they're doing this work, why is it not having an impact? Who's not taking it seriously? Who's not implementing their work? So if we have a combination of council insisting on hearing the voice directly of internal audit and audit committee, but also insisting that the CFO and the accounting officer sign off on information credibility, you will then start to get the assurance that you need as council. I also wanted to talk about the matters on infrastructure. Yes, it is a difficulty on technical skills. It's also a difficulty on, let's call it consequence management, because far too many officials in the infrastructure department are still signing off on certificates from contractors that they shouldn't. And so payments are being made when work has not been delivered. That's not a competence issue or a skills issue rather than a discipline one. So it's a combination of skills and discipline. And also space. Some of the instances we can see are about officials being put under pressure to sign off on project status when it hasn't reached that level. And so it's about space and lack of interference on the part of the council. The monitoring of grants. So we have a chapter in the general report. Starting from page 50, you'll see a chapter that deals with grant management. It is still our view that the provisions of the Division of Revenue Act provide that the transferring department has a direct interest in ensuring that, or getting assurance that the money that they're transferring to a municipality for implementing particular projects is likely to be spent properly. And we're calling upon the transferring departments to look more carefully at the business plans that are being submitted to them by the municipality, tracking the implementation of those plans, but also using their authority to either withhold funds, even if it's for a short period, but to withhold funds, or even taking advantage of the opportunity to rather transfer the service rather than the funds, where there are no capabilities lacking. If you look at a municipality like Kanaland, that's got a disclaimer, they are unable to show us what they did with the grant funding. They can't give us records to demonstrate that the grant funding that came from the national coffers has actually been used appropriately. If they can't show that to my audit teams, they are not able to show it to the transferring department. So the transferring department now has every opportunity to start to think differently around the conditions on which they transfer those funds or those resources to Kanaland. I would also suggest instances like Makana, which similarly couldn't give us evidence of what they've done with the grants in their hands. The transferring department has every reason to think differently about how they are transferring those resources and ensuring that they are going to be used appropriately. We do offer in our report insights on what we found, and we offer some recommendations on what could be done by the transferring department, but also by the municipality that receives the resources. I hope I've dealt with all of that. So while I might not make policy, we do offer some recommendations on what could be implemented given the prevailing legal arrangements. Thank you very much, Honourable Chair.
Thank you very much, Seiji. Lapus Gachne, can we proceed? Fine. All right.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Direko, you're next. And after that, we go to Mkalipi, and then Mtolo, and then Sompa. Direko, are you around? Okay, we'll come back to Direko. Let's invite Mkalipi. All
Hi,
right.
Chair.
Hi.
Hey, my network is quite better and I'm here in Parliament. Thanks very much. Please forgive me if I'm going to ask questions that are already introduced earlier on. Chair, I just want to check something. With the presentation from the AG, where she said that a total of 57% of municipalities maintain the same audit outcome status as in 2020 and 2021. And I heard her speaking about 61% of the municipality that have shown also improvement. But I didn't get quite well in what category, because when we just took a cab out of as a parliamentarian, and then we wear a cap as an ordinary South Africans, it's very difficult to notice that a certain municipality where is servicing you has improved. I know here we are talking about the financial a category of, or the aspect of it, but in terms of the service delivery, if the AG can on the issue of the service delivery. Let me just make an example. I'm sure she is not hearing this one as an example for the first time. In eThekwini municipality, there is an outcry of a water crisis. And one of the reasons that is also make me to push this item to be clarified by the AG is the fact that when the municipality of eThekwini is saying that the schools around eThekwini are owing that particular municipality so much, and as a result, the schools can't afford to pay the municipality or the arrangement that needs to be made for payment to take place. So as a result, that failure to make those payments from the school is also affect the children whom they are the constitutional rights are also eroded by the fact that the school principal or the school per se are failing to pay for the water. And the municipality said, no, if there's no arrangement, I'm not going to give you water or water tankers. And then when we engage with the municipality, with the schools, they're saying, no, is the instruction from the AGs. So my point is, even if there is some improvement as per the report, as per the presentation, but how do you measure that improvement in the municipalities compared to the service delivery that affects people? Those are my just few questions for now, for clarity, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you. AG, you might wish to respond to that.
No, thank you very much, Honourable Chair and Honourable Mkalipi. We would not have said cut off the schools. We would have said manage your debtors better. And that includes making sure that there is attention to the different categories of municipal debtors. If a municipality is in a scenario where they've got schools owing them significant amounts of money and they're not able to pay them, the recommendation from the AG would not be cut them off. It would be make sure that you manage it properly, even if it's with consultation with the Department of Basic Education at province or even at national. What we measure, Honourable Mkalipi, are basic controls around how resources are being managed. We don't second guess the decision-making of the people entrusted with running those affairs. Ours is to make sure that we give a sense of whether or not in the course of making those decisions, they are applying the prevailing prescripts. I'll give you an example. In many instances, we have audited how the indigent policies are being used. So the money that comes from the national fiscus being allocated to different municipalities so that they in turn can fund the provision of basic services to families that are indigent in their different localities. That's a good, clear policy. The money does reach municipalities. In many instances, first of all, the indigent register is not well maintained. So you find councillors and people who are employees of the state or even suppliers of that self-same municipality benefiting as supposed indigents when we all know that they're not. That's a management practice. It's not second-guessing a policy, but it is highlighting that in the execution of that policy, we're missing the real service delivery intention. So we would have issued a finding in that regard. So it's not to say cut off it's not to say don't deliver services to indigents, but make sure the service reaches the intended recipient. Sometimes we find that the indigent register and therefore the beneficiary of those services is somebody who at Home Affairs is deceased. So the question is either you've decided to give a benefit to somebody who shouldn't have it, or there's a problem around how you're managing the database. So fix the control so that you can get it to get your process to deliver what it is you're supposed to deliver. So that's as far as we go, to say you have a policy, you have these rules against which you must operate. We are seeing these gaps, and then we'll say this is the implication. So we do extend our work to looking at service delivery implications, and we give our recommendations in that spirit as well. The water crisis at eThekwini, we see as part of maybe three things. One is a legacy of not maintaining existing infrastructure, and we would have issued this level of insight over many years when we talk about the amount of money being budgeted for infrastructure maintenance, but also the amount of money that's being wasted through poor execution of those maintenance plans. The second thing is that we would have highlighted this matter around the distribution losses that are quite significant. If you look at Salt Lake municipality, 60% of their water is being lost, 67% of their water is being lost because of distribution losses. Now, they need to then make sure that they fix their infrastructure. We will also raise matters around the water crises in terms of how the management of water tankering services is going. You know, we have found material irregularities where the water tankering service providers are not being managed properly, and many instances being overpaid. the certificate of debt at Ngaka Mudiri Molema that I spoke about related to poor management of a water tankering service where the supplier was overpaid. We're also finding through our work that the process of appointing water tankers is fraught with irregularities. And we would have issued this in the more recent report that we did on water. Sometimes it's basic things like a supplier will bill a municipality in one province and another province for the same vehicle on the same day, which geographically just can't happen, physically can't happen. And so, yes, it's not the fault of the municipality, but they need to find ways of verifying that indeed what they're paying for is what they've received. We'll find instances where the water tanker, which is supposed to be a heavy-duty vehicle, is registered at NATIS as a passenger vehicle, a small passenger vehicle, which then says to us that the service provider is misbilling the municipality, and the municipality is none the wiser. They're paying off on invoices where the cars that are being billed for, they've not even verified. It is up to the municipality to monitor the contractor and make sure that they pay for what they get. So, of course, what then happens is the money being set aside to provide water tankering services doesn't reach citizens, be they households or even the schools. And then, of course, over time, resources become leaner and leaner, and the demand continues to grow because infrastructure is also deteriorating. So I hope I'm giving you a sense, Honorable Mkhaliphi, of how all of this work that we do hangs together. Ours would never have been to say, don't cut off a school, but it would have been to say, you've got all of these problems around how you manage your debtors, you've got these problems around how you're billing, you've got problems around how you manage the contracts around water tankering. You've also got problems on how you're dealing with your distribution network. And all of this results in service delivery failure and financial viability problems. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, AG. Let me invite now, Honorable Mkhaliphi, are you fine with your questions?
Yeah, thanks very much, Chairperson. Thanks very much for this clarification, and thanks very much, AG, because you went to town about this issue of the measurement. If you remember very much, Chair, I have raised this issue of eThekwini vis-a-vis with the AG's instruction according to the officials, because it was in an official meeting whereby I invited both the schools around Phoenix, Inanda, and it was said in the meeting, and I found it very weird. That's why I said, no, let me bring it up. And when I reported to the COGTA portfolio committee, we said we were going to ask the AG to come and meet with the eThekwini municipality together with the school principal. Maybe we can persuade that in order for these things to be clarified further. As a result, AG, I had to read them a constitution to say, if we are taking that direction as the municipality, as we are saying that it was because of the AG's instruction, or you were told by the AG, what about the constitution? What about the constitutionality of those kids that now they don't have access to water? That is number one. But thanks for the clarification. We can persuade that. But Chair, the AG didn't touch on the issue of 57% of the municipality who have maintained the same status as from 2020 to 2021, because I don't think it's a good thing if there is the case, or unless if I'm misreading it. And the issue of the 61% that the AG spoke about when she opened the presentation, and in the status of the local government. Thanks, Chair.
I'm gonna let the AG to reflect on that, but actually she did quite an elaborate discussion on those outcomes. I'm not sure if you'd like her to repeat, but she might just highlight what she would like to highlight. But I think she spent quite a bit of time. I just worry that sometimes some of the things as we kept dropping off, you could have missed some of them. So I'll get the AG to look at what can be highlighted again. The issue you're raising about municipality saying we are not supplying because the Auditor General had raised certain issues. Generally, the Auditor General will not come and prescribe what the municipality should do, but if what they're doing is, as AG is saying, is not in keeping with the law or cannot be accounted for properly, that is the issue more than whether, in fact, they should have found a way to assist those schools. So we will still need to pick it up again with the municipality, because I think they cannot dodge the issue by referring to the AG, because the AG does not run it. There has to be an understanding as to what was the lack of compliance from their side. So we would obviously need to pick the issue up again. I will then be inviting Honorable Ntolo, but if AG would like to come in now, you are welcome.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'd like to maybe just respond to the question from Honorable Mkhaliphi on the audit outcomes. The category where municipalities have stayed and not improved or regressed would include those that have stayed as clean audits, which we commend. Would also include those that have stayed as disclaimers, which we highlighted as a problem, the 7 repeat disclaimers, and the ones even that have been unqualified for too long. In adverse, the 5 include 3 that have been in this category for a long time. The real big message we wanted to share today about the municipalities whose outcomes are not improving are those in the yellow category, especially the ones that have been there for 5 years plus, the 44. The 24 with unqualified for 5 years to 9 years, and the 20 with unqualified for 10 years or more. And that list we've undertaken to provide, and I think that might be the one you're looking for. We'll certainly provide that. But however, Honorable Mkhaliphi, our report does set out audit outcomes for every single municipality. We've also got annexures that are available, and I'm happy to assist through my team to ensure that you have access to those and you're able to navigate them. I know our annexures can be a little bit data heavy, so we'll make sure we have somebody who's able to assist you so you can get the very best benefit out of them. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. I hope that assists Honorable Mkhaliphi. May I invite Honorable Ntolo at this point?
Good morning, good morning, Honorable Chair, and the Office of the HGSA. Thank you very much, AG, for a wonderful and informed presentation. Very, very impressive. Honorable Chair and honorable members, I would like to touch or comment on the before I come to call to action. I would like to touch on the issue of consultants, the use of consultants. You will recall, Honorable Chair, that actually this issue is an old issue, whereby actually I remember 20 years ago, while I was still a councillor, this was the main issue that used to be raised as a serious concern. And 20 years ago, 20 years now, after 20 years now, it's still being raised. I don't think, Chair, that actually there is a political will and administrative will to deal with this issue. So maybe I think as political parties, we need to really show that political will in addressing this matter, because this matter was raised long time ago, still being raised even now. Let me just come to call to action, AG. I think as political parties concerned, I think it's high time that we look into this issue of coordination, because that is lacking. There's a lack of coordination between local government, the sphere of government, provincial and national. That is lacking. And we talk of actually of professionalization of local government. So maybe once actually we we stop using local government as a dumping sphere or site, whereby actually those that fail to perform are going to be deployed into local government. Maybe we'll see changes. I think there must be a change in terms of attitude and approach by all political parties, because we have a serious problem. I think actually, Chair, we still have a chance because we are having local government elections in November. Maybe I think while actually we are busy with candidates selection or nominations, maybe we must make sure that this time we nominate people that are capable and credible. More important, also credible, because this thing of councillors that are questionable that we deploy in local government, and even people that have failed in other spheres of government and are just deployed in local government as a dumping sphere. I think political parties should stop that. I think it's important that as political parties, we take local government seriously as a sphere, because that is still lacking, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. We don't take government, local government, seriously as a sphere of government. So once actually we change that attitude, and we take it seriously, I think that changes the local government. And even on the issue of consequence management, because AG actually will come up with findings, and the manner in which leadership of local government deals with those findings, it shows that actually they don't take those findings seriously, or take even the recommendation or findings of the AG seriously. I thought maybe it's important that I comment on that. I make some comments on those issues, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's largely comments, very welcome comments, and I think very important message to send through to reinforce the sentiments of the AG's report. At the end, everything boils down to who are the people who are responsible. The leaders, public representatives, starting from them, they need to be the ones who are capable and who are credible and who are ethical, so that they should then drive this whole program of accountability. I think it's an important point that we have just made. AG, if you want to comment, otherwise we move on to Honorable van Wyk.
Business Chairperson, thanks to all the honorable members.
Sorry, Honorable van Wyk, let's see
Yes,
if
Chair.
AG wants to come in first. I'll come in after that.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to indicate that I don't have a comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's proceed, Honorable van Wyk.
Okay, Chairperson. Greetings, AG and your team. Chairperson, I don't have actually much because Honorable Labaskachny also actually covered me. Chairperson, I just wanted to know this thing about consultants, it keeps on coming up, Chairperson. I just wanted to know why are municipalities still heavily dependent on consultants, and what are being done to transfer skills from consultants to municipal officials, and how can municipalities attract and retain skilled professionals? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable van Wyk. These are issues when we meet with the municipalities we have been dealing with. But also, I think we need to involve the provincial leadership as well to get involved, because there has to be a campaign to drive out consultants, get a clear plan of their replacement, and get a commitment to build the institutional capacity for each one of those municipalities so that they can behave like what the example that the AG is referring of Ratlow. Effectively, a lot of stuff that is needed for consultant is stuff that you should have your own internal capacity to deal with. If you're doing day-to-day budget planning and then you are doing proper procurement and everything, it's your documents. It's not anybody else's document. It's your day-to-day activities. So I think for the committee, we need to actually zoom into that and put a lot of pressure for this issue of consultants to be given proper attention. AG, if you wish to comment.
No, Chair. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I agree with you wholeheartedly. We do have to prioritize the building of institutional capabilities. Thank you, Chair. And it's not just on financial reporting. It translates to the other basic functions of a municipality where there's ongoing over-reliance on external service providers, and that's become a permanent feature, rather than ensuring that we hire people and we gradually ensure that they have the benefit of training and stability, but also are held accountable for performance. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think your point is well made. We will pursue the matter. Do you have Sompa, Honorable Sompa? Okay. Honorable Direko? No.
Sorry, Chair. I was struggling
yes.
to get in. Oh,
Okay,
sorry
no
about that.
problem.
And let me also congratulate the AG and the Deputy AG and also the report that they have tabled. Chair, my question, or that one that I wanted to ask, is the same as the one that my honorable wanted to ask about the municipality, but you say we'll deal with the provincial leadership about it. My second question to the Auditor General will be, were there any municipality that have submitted all financial reports, the financial statements in time? Did all of municipalities submit their financial statement in time or not? If they were not, which are those municipalities? Thank you very much.
AG, if you wish to react to that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chair. There were 5 municipalities that did not submit their financials on time. I think my colleague will assist me with the list. That list did include Maluleke and Nala. So those 5 didn't submit on time. We were able to complete the other 3 audits, and then Nala was a bit late in terms of the audit process, but it was because of the late submission. We just managed to catch up on time and with the 3. And then Maluleke. So what we are reporting is we've had the highest on-time submission rate. So to have 98% submission rate on time is unprecedented. And that's something we must celebrate. And then we know that the 5 that submitted late actually did submit. So you actually don't have a non-submitter. The only one that didn't submit is Maluleke in terms of its consolidated financial statements. But at least we have their individual financial statements for the municipality and for the water trading entity. In a nutshell, high level of on-time submission. It was only 5. The 5 eventually do submit, and we completed the audits for 3, and then Nala even subsequently, and then Maluleke just the consolidation. So we have effectively pushed back on this culture of getting away with non-submission. And it is something we would want to encourage oversight to continue to watch over so that we don't go back to the days of tolerating non-submission. It should not be that anyone who receives public funds gets away with not submitting financial statements. It's the first step of demonstrating some inclination towards transparency and accountability. And so we are delighted that, through this advocacy, through the material irregularities, through the work of province and national, both executive and oversight, we've been able to get there. It is my appeal that we never go back. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, is there anyone else who is having an outstanding question? Okay, I think we should then try and round up this. It once again becomes important for us to thank the Auditor General for the very elaborate presentation. And thanks very much again for indicating very clearly areas of improvement, stasis, and deterioration. We actually can see that there's been some movement. And so we should also commit to work together with the AG's office to eliminate some of the most glaring. I must say that it's quite heartening to see that the issue of non-submission has been somehow addressed, because it was one of the issues that the committees underlined to say is the provincial leadership must undertake to ensure that there is no such, because it's negligence. It's not anything very sophisticated. It's negligence, and it's a matter of lack of supervision. Somebody needs to stand up and say, go do it. It's not a thing that requires special skills, but of course it has to be based on the fact that there are such financial reports to be submitted. So I think the committee's task has been properly cut out. We obviously need to intensify our oversight. I think the format that we used has been fairly effective, that one of a combined, and in some instances descend on a province and call everybody into one room and then actually draw the line and make everybody answer at the same time. And then you also see what the others have to say about what they are doing. So you learn from others and you learn from the interaction yourselves. I think we need to target a number of issues. Non-submission should be a no-no, and therefore that needs to be online. Then we need to deal with the question of adverse outcomes. They need to address those. There should be no adverse outcomes, and we need to emphasize the need for the support to make sure that municipalities get out of that. And then, of course, the issue of disclaimers. It's good to see that there's been an improvement, but improvement and not elimination is not adequate. So we need to get to the point of saying, what is it that makes them unable to eliminate disclaimers? Now, you'd obviously recall, AG, that we had a bit of a confusion in terms of how the audit processes get undertaken in the cases of disclaimers where there are just no records. And it's an issue that I hope that we will find a closure to, in the sense that at some point we have to draw a line where we say there's no one who has a disclaimer, and that the declining numbers are good enough, but we need to actually target those 9 that are remaining, the 8 that are remaining, so that there should be a target of no disclaimers. Then the other issue which we thought was important to also deal with, unfunded budgets. There needs to be a way of how to get out of unfunded budgets. And this, again, should be one of the issues that we must draw a line to say the municipality and the provincial leadership must give us a roadmap of how to get out of the unfunded budgets. Then we need to also deal with the issue of non-improvement of audit outcomes. You have been qualified for many years. You need to move out of that. you have been qualified with matters, you need to move out of that. We're moving towards clean audit outcomes. And I think we need to just have a few key issues of what is it that we want a commitment from the leadership to make sure that we eliminate those particular issues. Then the other issue is that one of the consultants replacement. Now that again, it becomes it becomes important that there must be a plan of how they'll get out, because it's not just a statement that you're going to get rid of consultants. We're saying build your own capacity. That's what the municipality must have. It's its own capacity to manage its own financial systems. And so that becomes an important issue for the committee to focus on. Then, of course, the other issues that are going to be important to get a focused attention on is the issue of procurement irregularities. Now, we've had, in some instances, municipalities that have just been comfortably sitting there with a large number of contracts, which are the same contracts being extended irregularly on a continuous basis over several years. When I'm saying several, sometimes goes to 10 years, 11 years, and so on. Now, those procurement irregularities have to be obviously properly dealt with. Then these are some of the issues that have been flagged seriously. Then the other issues of the management of the infrastructure grants. We still have municipalities which still divert the grant for operational expenditure. Again, we need to be able to say a line drawn there that must never happen. It must never be part of a conversation. It should never be part of what happens. And again, we should be able to focus on those ones in particular. Then the rest of the issues in relation to revenue collection, expenditure management, those again become part of the issues that we will be sitting there and dealing with the municipalities about. Ultimately, the management of UIFW has been our major entry point, looking at issues of consequence management, and particularly looking at the structures that are necessary to process the issues of UIFW, from audit committees, disciplinary boards, MPEC, and their capacity to perform, and also at the end, the proof or record of consequence management, so that you change the culture of impunity, which is what drives this whole situation. And then in a number of instances, we've had to charge the provincial leadership with the responsibility to ensure that they address political instability and some of the areas of political interference in terms of breaking the political and administrative interface, which is where there has been difficulties in controlling irregularities, investigations of corruption, and also consequence management, because some of the consequences are supposed to be visited on people who actually, when they misbehaved, they were actually following instructions. Illegal as the instructions might have been, now we need someone to say, well, you didn't act. What is the reason why you didn't act? If you were the one who was responsible, we need to then get a way of acting on you as well. So we've had very good responses from most of the provincial leadership. Of course, in some of the instances, there's not been much interest like in the one of Gauteng. But in most of the other provinces, there has been generally very good responses to the whole program of calling for accountability right across. So I must say, from where we sit, there has been a very consistent support from COGTA, national and provincial level. At each and every sitting, they would sit there. And then at national and provincial level, at Treasury, as well as Auditor-General and SIU. So this team has actually gone around, and I must say, it actually has a lot more impact if you've got the whole team there, because there's nothing that escapes attention. Everybody is there. And it's also easy to counter-check issues within a very short space of time. We're actually back to the facts. What are the facts? And therefore, we're able to move. I think the impact of all this engagement has been fairly positive, and we have actually had a very strong interaction with the SCOPA team. And so, some of the instances were initiated by COGTA, some were by SCOPA. But all of us, as we participate through, were able to actually make the message to get through that this is a preparation for good service delivery programs. If you don't have all of these matters resolved, service delivery will certainly be affected negatively. And I think if we continue, we will have an impact. And already from some of the report that the AGS report has given now, it does appear to me that over a period, this is going to have some noticeable impact. And that's why I welcome it when the Auditor General has to underline certain areas to say, don't leave this one behind, pick it up, because that is what helps to guide the conversation as we meet up with the rest of the municipalities. So with that, AG, once again, congratulations on this very important milestone of your very strong leadership, women leadership. I must say that we are really very impressed, and we really look forward to continuous working with you and giving as much support as we can, and obviously taking as much guidance from you as possible. So let me give you your comments, again, opportunity for a comment, so we can then close the discussion. Thank you, AG.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair, and I want to thank you and the honourable members of the committee for the opportunity to engage in this way this morning. I am of the same mind as you in terms of what needs to happen over the next period, certainly in the run-up to this transition we're facing and beyond. We have made some gains. It's in all our interest to protect them and to do so in a way that's collaborative and to also keep working on strengthening these institutions. The ones that have submitted, that come out of disclaimer, are still vulnerable as institutions. So we have to keep our eye on the ball in terms of protecting the gains we've made, especially as we get the new leaders in local government to settle down. I am looking forward to our ongoing collaboration. I have seen and been inspired by the many late nights and the long days that you have all endured as you crisscross the country, as well as what you've been doing in collaboration with SCOPA. Honourable Chair, on a serious note, I think as Auditor General, I am certainly emboldened and encouraged by the attention that you continue to pay to our work. And I'm truly inspired by the hard work and the collaborative effort that we're seeing from the different committees of Parliament, and also the work with Treasury and SIU and others in the ecosystem. I think it inspires us as Team AGSA, and I think importantly as citizens, because we must all walk away with a sense of hope that tomorrow will be better. So ngiyabonga Khabazela.
Thank you so much. Well, talking about these late nights, I know the the champion for those is Honorable Lapus Kachne, who loves those two bits, and Honorable Mtolo and Nkosi. I don't see them here, ululating on this one, but I must say it was really one of those experiences that we look back and we say, well, we did stretch things a bit there, but I think at the end it was all an effort to try and say, look, we've got a task in front of us, let's all take it seriously. And so thanks very much. I think the point that has been made by Honorable Mtolo, we need to make send a strong message to political parties. There has to be a focus on the quality and the caliber of the councillors, the candidate councillors that they will be putting on the table. Those will determine to what extent we can improve audit outcomes, we can ensure accountability, we can ensure that there's proper economic development, there's proper governance, there's a reversal of dysfunctionality because of the quality and the caliber of the leaders, both capable and ethical, are very, very, very important so that as we move on, we can actually deal with the issues of shortages of resources and challenges of communities and backlogs, but not deal with dysfunctionality because of a culture of impunity where people do not, focus on simple, basic administrative, issues, but they actually can continue with, transgressions and irregularities without any consequences. So that, I think, is a message that we're going to have to drive very strongly. But having said all of that, honorable members, there you are, the Auditor General and her team, magnificent work they've done. Thank you very much for the guidance, and we will continue to give you the support. This session, therefore, is closed. It's adjourned. We move on. Yes, thank you very much. You're welcome to all wave to the beautiful team of the AG. Honorable Van Zyl, we're closing. You want to say bye-bye to the AG?
No,
And let's see all the
Chairperson,
photos.
when they leave, Chairperson, if we can just stay on for a couple of seconds.
No, only AG is leaving. The meeting is not getting closed. But that's fine. Thank you very much, AG and your team. Thank you. How do you do all these nice things that I see appearing here? How do you do these things? Excuse me?
No, we'll teach you, Chair. Don't worry, we'll teach you.
You'll teach me? Hey, let me see now. Yes, that's congratulations to the AG's team. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We are not done. We are not done. Can we have the link to the team that is online? Thank you very much. So we are done with the parliamentary process. So we have a few questions here, from journalists that are online, AG. So the first one, Jan, can you be able to hear me? Jan?
Yes, thank you. I can hear you.
Thank you very much. So you may proceed and ask your question. The AG can hear you. Jan?
Yes, can I go ahead?
I think your connection is difficult, but I have your question here, so let me ask it. If you need to make a follow-up, you can make a follow-up. So AG, the question is that would you like to comment on whether service delivery, including water, refuse removal, electricity, roads, and related municipal services have generally been improving for residents in South African municipalities? And he says that, putting it differently, when looking at beyond the technicalities of the audit process and its findings, are municipalities delivering on their core service delivery responsibilities?
Thanks, Jan. I think there are many institutions better than mine that are able to respond to that question. I'll share with you what I see as Auditor General. We're seeing that more and more municipalities are under financial pressure, and that their expenditure tends to be on employment costs more and more rather than service delivery aspects. We're seeing that the cost of delivering services to all of us is growing because of the distribution losses, especially on electricity and water. We're seeing that the ability to manage the contractors that pick up our waste, our solid waste, is quite poor, so the efficiency of spend is quite poor. In a nutshell, a combination of weak institutional capacity to do what's required, whether it's picking up litter or ensuring that the distribution networks are maintained and repaired when there's a problem. That capacity is not adequate in the municipality, so they rely on contractors. And then the ability to manage those contractors efficiently is very weak. Either the wrong contractors are appointed, but also even when they are there, the quality of spend is questionable. What that means is that the resources that are available to spend on service delivery are not always reaching us as citizens. And so the ability of municipalities to deliver services, given the resources they have, is quite weak. And I think if you look across many municipalities, the cry is about service delivery that is insufficient and often unpredictable. And it's mainly because the institutional capacity within municipalities to either do the work themselves or manage the contractors that they've appointed is quite weak. I trust that answer assists. Thanks.
So, Jan, I hope you are able to hear that. Another question, AG, comes from our colleagues from Umbela, and the question is, the COGTA minister had indicated that government is considering reducing the number of municipalities. Does the AG think that the amalgamation might assist, especially in provinces such as the Free State and Northwest?
I don't think I'm qualified to respond on that. I think there are a few municipalities that do require some rethinking on the demarcation, and I know that that process, the demarcation board, has some influence and jurisdiction over. What we know, though, is that even when you've now designed the municipal borders in a way that gives some better viability, for as long as there isn't enough attention to building institutional capability to manage the affairs of the municipality, the value will not accrue. There's been efforts over the last couple of decades to keep changing the demarcation. Sometimes there were even amalgamations. The impact of it has been very little because there hasn't been enough attention to building institutional capability. In our report, you'll see that we set out instances where billing practices are so poor that even where municipalities have been demarcated in a way that should allow them to be viable, they're not billing properly, and they're not collecting properly, and they're not planning and budgeting for their expenditure appropriately. So the problems that would have existed when they were a smaller municipality continue even in the bigger framing. So demarcation has its place. Our work tells us, and it's our work from many, many decades now, tells us that for as long as there isn't enough attention to building the institutional capabilities required, we're not going to get the benefit of the work done to either change frameworks or demarcation boundaries. Thanks.
Thanks, AG. Another question is what does the AG think has been the reason why there's been some misunderstanding by some on the unqualified audit opinion with findings, and what does it really mean?
So, unqualified with findings means the financial statements that are published are credible, which is an important thing. At least there's a reliable set of financial statements that the people who provide funding to the municipality, that residents can use to evaluate financial performance or the financial standing of a municipality. It's an important step, but it highlights that there are still some problems. One, many of those municipalities get to that unqualified status after relying on the audit process, meaning that their basic financial governance processes during the course of the year are not sound. That's why they have to rely on the audit to correct their financial statements. So we pointed out to say, yes, the financials at the end of the day might be fine, but they are not reflective on an environment where financial governance is appropriate. The second thing is that the findings, people want to trivialize the findings and they sort of even, flick off their hand. Those findings are quite important, and I think we trivialize them at our own peril. It is findings about service delivery reporting. If you can't give a performance report that's credible, none of us can assess whether or not that municipality has done what it's supposed to do with the resources it has. Public institutions are not there to register a profit or give a healthy balance sheet at the end of the day. That's not their only real purpose. Their real purpose is to deliver services in accordance with what has been promised and budgeted for. If a performance report is not credible, it tells us that the process of planning for performance, cascading performance objectives into different parts of the institution, holding people accountable for ongoing performance during the course of the year, and then accounting for the performance or being accountable or answerable for that performance at the end of the year, it tells us that that's not working. And that's what will account for the dissonance we often feel when someone celebrates an unqualified audit opinion with findings, because it doesn't tell the full story. The other part, which, as I say, we underestimate its importance of, is the one on compliance. Most municipalities struggle with compliance, especially on supply chain and procurement. And yes, some of them will say, well, the procurement legislation is so onerous to contend with that this is why we can't keep up with it. The truth is that there are many clean audits in this space, and clean audits are where the procurement legislation has been observed. So there are some people who are able to do it and others can't. The question is why? And our view is that much of it has to do with a decision and a posture adopted by the leaders of that institution. It doesn't mean that you might not have a problem from one year to the next, but if perpetually you make no progress in driving compliance with the prescripts, then it tells us that your tendency to want to comply is not there. You don't build the skills, the practices, the disciplines, the consequences that will make sure that the culture is appropriate. The reality is that for as long as we tolerate non-compliance with prescripts, we basically bake in a culture of impunity. And remember, those prescripts are there to help us live up to constitutional principles set out in Section 217 on how public procurement should look. Cost effectiveness, equitable access to these processes, transparent processes. All of those pillars are crucial things that underpin our constitutional democracy. And so when we trivialize the non-compliance aspects, then we normalize impunity. And so what that does is it bakes in a set of behaviors that are almost predictably going to be counter to what we expect, which is making sure that when we procure from the most appropriate contractor who's most likely to deliver on time, at the right quality, at the right price. We then normalize procuring from people who are unlikely to deliver, will overcharge us, leading to significant leakage, and meaning that even the things we spend on, we don't get what we need, and we certainly overspend on what we're buying. So I think people want to trivialize. That's why they'll sort of say it's unqualified with findings. And maybe also because unqualified with findings is better than a disclaimer or better than not submitting. So our eyes, all of us as South Africans, go to the disclaimers and the non-submitters and not so much to the unqualified with findings. Our analysis has showed us for a few years now, and that's why we're spotlighting it more boldly now, that this category of unqualified with findings has major problems. And that's why that slide we share on the problems in that category. And we do it as an invitation to all of us as South Africans to understand that, first of all, there's a big difference between clean audit and unqualified with findings. And yes, sure, some unqualified with findings have isolated problems that we can name and deal with. But those that are in that category for 5 years, 10 years, are institutions that are getting weaker and weaker over time, because the culture in that environment is not one that embraces ongoing improvements in performance, accountability, transparency, or even ethical conduct. So I do want to assert that as Team AGSA, we're quite clear that 10 years ago, 20 years ago, unqualified findings was a good destination. Right now, it's not. We should not tolerate it, especially for those that stay in that category too long. And we've seen the cost of doing so. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me hear if those that are online can hear us, and if any one of them has got a question. Are you able to hear me? See, the network is a bit weak there.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you. This is Lindile again from Umbele. I just have one more question for the AG. AG, there appears to be a shift in the political will within with the interventions of provincial governments. Do you by any chance think that this is as a result of a shift from a majority party government to a GNU?
Yeah, I did hear it. Thank you. I had not thought about it in those terms. What I'm seeing, though, is a shift in the appreciation by provincial leaders and national leaders of the duties and obligations that they have towards local government. In fact, I believe that much of this we started to see before the GNU. It's a message we've been driving for about 4 years now, much more strongly in the latter 3. And we have not missed that most leaders have been receptive to the message. The work that Parliament has been doing, yes, has happened from this term of Parliament. But certainly the work at provincial level in terms of the administration and the legislatures, as well as national level, predates the GNU. We believe that the advocacy we've been making as AGSA in driving messages about the accountability ecosystem, and you might notice that we've been doing that for a few years now, is paying off. We've gone back to the law and pointed out responsibilities of the different role players within a municipality, in province and national. And that's been work we've been doing as part of our Culture Shift 2030 strategy, which we've been implementing for a number of years, way before the GNU. So I think about it in those terms. And certainly that's what I see in terms of the response of government and of the legislatures. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ntokozo, you will deal with it after. Okay, I think if maybe there isn't anybody else online, I'm sure we can be able to conclude this particular one. Gone. Thank you very much. And thank you once again. I know that today has been quite a competitive day with the impeachment committee going live and Madanga Commission going live. We thank you also for the opportunity you have given us. We are still available. We've got various leaders within the AGSA who will be able to unpack the insights from this particular report on various platforms. So you can get in touch with our media team. And thank you very much. This session is adjourned. Thank you very much, AG. Thank you very much to the leaders who are here. And the GR team, I didn't greet you. Good morning. Thank you very much. It is adjourned.